Here's a fun Halloween fact for you. The first game I was afraid of was Super Mario 64. I was 5 or 6 years old when I first played it, and that first boss battle against King Bob-omb with the sinister music as he slowly walked towards you completely set me off and made it impossible for me to continue playing. Fun times. But we're not here to talk about how I had to get my parents to beat the first boss in Mario 64 for me as I cried relentlessly in the corner of the room clutching a pillow over my face. No. We're here to talk about Pumpkin Jack, a 3D platformer I have, rather appropriately, been playing over the Halloween period. Pumpkin Jack by solo indie developer Nicolas Meissonier is described as medieval meets Jak and Daxter. You play as Jack, an evil spirit resurrected by the devil to chase after a world-saving wizard in order to stamp out all that is good. Along with a trusty crow companion, you have to traverse a number of spooky levels, overcoming platforming challenges in order to track the wizard down and put a stop to their justice-driven schemes. There's a lot of variety to the levels you go through, from spooky meadows to abandoned mines and a castle under siege. And with a cool art style reminiscent of 3D platformers from the PS2 era, each level ends up looking pretty spectacular, especially when you take into account that almost everything in this game is made by just one person. The sound design is also great, with a soundtrack by Johann Jaeger that wouldn't be out of place in a Banjo-Kazooie or Donkey Kong game. It's clear that the music is an ode to 3D platformers of the past, with a lot of effort made to mimic the stylings of composers David Wise and Grant Kirkhope. While there's nothing in here that is as memorable as some of the tracks from those games, the music does a good job at being enjoyable to listen to as you play. The sound effects are particularly great though, with a particular favourite being the neck snapping sound as Jack removes his head to enter one of the various micro levels. And you can't have a platformer without the grunts and yelps of your main character as you play, something Jack has in spades. Get it? It's a spade joke. See, Jack uses a spade as a weapon, and he has an abundance of grunts. So he's got grunts in spades. In spades! Of course, how the level looks and sounds wouldn't matter if the game didn't play well. Thankfully, Pumpkin Jack is no slouch in the platforming department. From playing Pumpkin Jack, it's clear that Meissonier is a platformer lover who has learnt many lessons from platforming games in the past and what makes them play well. The controls are easy to get to grips with, there's a double jump that gives you a decent amount of height, and in air you have a tight level of manoeuvrability, meaning you can easily adjust yourself if you've not quite calculated a jump correctly. And like all good platformers, once you've spent a bit of time in Jack's shoes, his body and his movements feel like an extension of your own, meaning there's never a scenario where the game feels at fault when you fail. There's also a combat aspect to the game, with 6 different weapons to choose from in order to bash and blast enemies out of the way, as well as a dodge mechanic that lets you zip around them while evading their attacks. It doesn't have the depth of something like Dark Souls, but the weapons are interesting enough and fun to use, which makes the combat in this game a nice change of pace from old 3D platformers, where the combat consisted of either jumping on an enemy's head or spinning in a circle to bash minions out of the way. Pumpkin Jack is a joy to run and jump around in, and might be one of the best feeling platformers I've played this generation. So it's a shame that the game didn't really give me the challenges I was waiting for. While each level is fairly large and can take anywhere from 30 to 60 minutes to get through, there's only 6 of them, which means that the game can feel kind of slight in the long run and doesn't give Pumpkin Jack the chance to open up and add in some genuinely challenging sections. Typically in 3D platformers, the extra hard bits will be the challenges you have to get through in order to obtain optional collectibles, but here the collectibles, which allow you to buy additional costumes for Jack, often only lie off the beaten path, with very few requiring an extra challenge to overcome in order to obtain them. This meant that I was able to obtain the majority of them in my first playthrough of a level. This mixed with very few deaths meant that I was finishing the game with just over 4 hours of playtime, which might be a turn off for people wanting a bit more meat for the £25 they have to spend on the game. I do of course realise that the lack of big challenges may be to make sure that this game is accessible to everyone, which is fair. And with the developers saying that this game typically takes people 6 to 7 hours to get through, my quick playtime may be down to the fact that I am clearly a pro gamer. Even though Pumpkin Jack is slim in overall playtime, however, it doesn't mean it's not stuffed to the brim with fun to be had, with each level having its own unrepeated sections plucked straight from 3D platformers of yore. There's flight sections, on-rail, or water in this case, boat platforming sections, and like any good platformer, a roller coaster minecart section. All of these help break up the flow of the game and keep things feeling fresh for the entirety of the playtime. Ultimately, I had a lot of fun with Pumpkin Jack. It's a worthy spiritual successor to the platformers that inspired it. While it doesn't have many ideas of its own, it's an excellent platforming theme park packed with the best attractions from platformers past, and is a genuinely great game in its own right. The fact that it was made by just one developer is the extra icing on the cake. As a love letter to the games of yesteryear and a showcase for the developer's talents, it works perfectly. Hopefully now Masonja can use Pumpkin Jack as a base to expand upon, and to introduce his own ideas into the 3D platforming pantheon. I know I'll be there day one when he does. Hey, thank you so much for watching. It means so much to me that you've stuck around. It would be great if you could click the like button below if you did like the video. It would also be great if you could hit the subscribe button as well. That way you'll be able to see future videos when I upload them. Coming up soon, we have the quick thoughts on the Xbox Series X, and then also the PS5 shortly after that. And then as we enter into the end of the year, it'll be time for Game of the Year season, where I do a countdown of my favourite games of the past year. Hope to see you there. Bye!